अभी तो ऐसा कुछ आ नहीं।
Okay, so now let's start. First, we will start. अभी जो first session है, in this session, we will try to understand this diagram called Easy ITSM. This was originally based on the ITIL version 2, and then it got updated for ITIL version 3 also. And this is still valid because in ITIL4 also, lot many of these processes have been retained and they are still working. They are in practice in many organizations. Other than this, what we will do in our session, you can mute your this thing mic right now. जब बोलना हो तो unmute कर लेना, ठीक है? Okay. Other than this, we will also try to understand the slides, the ITIL4 slides. There are 7 learning outcomes of these ITIL4s. You have received all these slides and everything. I've already shared these with you on WhatsApp. So there are 7 learning outcomes of the ITIL 4 thing. These are these learning outcomes. One is the key concepts. So a lot of key concepts will get clarified from here, from this diagram, which is about the various processes and how these processes, how these practices, help desk, service desk practice, capacity management, information management, incident management, all these practices interact with each other. This diagram helps. So one is the key concepts of ITI service management. Then how there are guiding principles. In the ITIL4 literature, they have included 7 guiding principles. ये मूलभूत सिद्धांत ये है. These guiding principles are, and they guide the organization under every circumstance. Other than this, there are 4 dimensions. In this book, the book which you have just read, or which I recommend to read before the training session, ये जो आपकी story book है, in this story book, there is a mention of 4 P's of IT service management. And these 4 P's are people, process, products, and partners. What they have done in ITL4 is that they have extended the 4 P's to 4 dimensions. And these 4 dimensions have been defined as organization and people, value streams, processes, partner suppliers, and information technology. They are nothing but 4 P's only, but they are refined in a little better manner. Then there is something which is called service value system. It is a bit theory. Within service value system, there are 5 components or 5 things. One of those is the service value chain. So there are value chain activities called plan, engage, improve, design, transition, opt and build, and deliver support. These are 6 service value chain activities which convert an opportunity or demand into value for the customer. तो वो हमको समझना है. We will have to this. Then there are 18 ITIL practices जिनको जिनका नाम we need to know them and we also need to know the purpose. So out of those 18, most of them are covered here in this. So once we understand this diagram and once we understand these practices which are defined in this particular book, small book, then this one will be done. And out of those 18 practices, 7 practices have to be done in a little detail. So now we will do this section in our second session, this particular book or the ITIL 4 accredited material. This we will do in our second session. First session is reading this book. Second session is easy ITSM. So now if you look at the easy ITSM in the initial literature of in the initial version 2 of ITIL, ITIL V2 was there. So in the initial version of V2, there were 2 primary books. One was called Service Delivery and another one was called Service Support. Service Delivery was when you prepare for the service. And in this book also we have explained कि हम BlackBerry service बना रहे हैं. We are making some other services also. So when we prepare for the service is service delivery. Now when we prepare internally is service delivery, and when we extend or when we actually offer the service to the customer वो होता है आपका सर्विस सपोर्ट. Now there are best practices. What is a best practice? Best practice is the best way of doing things, and they have been documented in the version 2 of ITIL. So there are best practices of service delivery, which are the six processes. So those are finance management. पैसा कहाँ से आएगा? How will you take care of the money? Because ultimately it's a business organization. So it has to make sure that there is a profit coming out of it. So first thing is financial management. उस जगह ही पैसा लगाओ जहाँ पर आपका value है. Don't put your money where there is no value. Put your money where there is value. Finance management. Then you have got service level management. Basically defining what the service will include and what quality of service will be provided. What will be the SLAs, service level agreements, targets क्या होंगे उनको कैसे meet करोगे, how will you meet them. Then you have got availability management. Depending on the type or the nature of the service, some services may be available 24 by 7, while the others may be only during office hours. Then we have got the management. Depending on the number of customers or the number of users assessing your services, we have capacity management. How do we manage the capacity? Because if we have less than required capacity, then there will be performance issue. And if we have more than the required capacity, then there will be a cost issue. We will be spending more while we need less. So you have a capacity issue. Then you have got a capacity management. Then you have got the security management. Depending on the type of the organization, if you are running a military organization, the security will be very high. If you are running an education organization, security may be less. You will be sharing a lot of knowledge stuff with your students, with your teachers. Obviously, there will be some confidentiality there also. Security issues will also be there. तो स्टूडेंट्स के मार्क्स थोड़ी आप वेबसाइट पे सबको दिखा दोगे या उनकी something things which need to be kept confidential, they will be taken care. But again, security is in line with what the organization needs and what the organization requires. And the last one is IT service continuity, which is what is following the business continuity process of the excuse me, following the business continuity of the organization. I'll just mute my this thing. Okay. So these are the six service delivery processes. Do you have any questions on these processes, Anju?
Oh, oh, sir, understood.
ये clear है, ठीक है? So now let's move further. And what we'll do is move ahead with the next one. So now when you give the service to the customer starts using the service. So that is your service support. So service delivery is these six processes. But service support is you have the one function, which is your service desk function. This is the SPOC, service desk function की चीज में साथ में दो चीजें आती हैं. One we normally call it is an SPOC, which is a single point of contact. And other thing what it does is ownership, monitoring, tracking, and coordination for all user support activities. So that is one function. Service desk, let's call it a function. Function matlab, function is a group of people. There are people who are working together. Process is a series of activities. For example, the service desk function is supported by the process which is called incident management. Incident management, what do? You log the incident, write initial details about the incident, and then you prioritize the incident based on the severity or what you call is the impact and urgency. Incident priority is decided based on the kitna uska impact hai, how much is going to be the impact on the business and how much urgent it is. For example, a phone ringing may be just a round number, but it is urgent to pick it up because if you do not pick up the phone, it will be gone. So you will not know whether it was a wrong number or whether it was an important call. So some things are urgent, but some things have huge impact. If the phone call was by default, if something is urgent, obviously the priority will be higher. And by default, if the something is not urgent, but the impact is very high, then you may not have given that much priority. For example, earthquake. If there is an earthquake in the organization, Earthquake incident will be a very huge impact. हो सकता है सब कुछ खत्म हो जाए. Everything can go for win, but the probability or chances of occurrence are going to be are very low in case of an earthquake. So what you will do is you will do the minimum continuity planning in case of earthquake. So incident management is a process. What you do, you log the incident, first step, you prioritize the incident, second step, you assign it to the right person, third step, you escalate horizontally or vertically based on the situation during the working on the incident status may be logged or assigned or work in progress or suspended or resolved or closed. Any of these statuses could be there for incident. So each incident will go through all these steps. It's a series of steps, and that's what is a process. Third one, problem management. So analyzing the similar incidents and creating problems out of them, removing the root cause of those problems so that there are no further incidents coming up out of that problem is called problem. It's not process. This is called problem management. Yes. Okay. Then you have got the change management. Then you have got the release management, and you have got the configuration management. Very beautifully designed. ITIL version 2 शुरू में जब आया था बहुत, it was so beautiful, it was so good and very easy to understand. And that is how I created this diagram, and I also written a small, very small book also. By the way, I have a book available on ITIL 2011 also, which is on Amazon, and I'm also in the process of writing an ITIL4 book, which may come sometime. I'm planning to finish it within this year, but let's see when it goes. So let's come back onto this easy ITSM. I'll just explain this to you. On the user side, the only function of the organization interacting with the users is single point of contact, and which is the help desk. So there are the users who are interacting with the help desk. You are now in a running organization where the services do exist, and there are registered subscribers or registered users of the services. So those services are being used by the users. And these are typically the IT users. We are talking about the IT service management, or we are talking about the ITIL. ITIL it is called because it's a library, it's a set of books which was documented. So the name was given as IT infrastructure library, ITIL. One user says I cannot access the internet. Other one says I cannot shoot a printout. The third one says मेरा file share नहीं हो रहा, I can't share the files. The fourth one says I can't access, I can't have the access to printer. So all these are incidents, they are reported to the service desk. So what you can read here is incidents are managed by incident management process as per the SLA defined. So out of these incidents, whatever is the priority of the incidents. For example, printer is not working. If it is a normal user who is like a trainee in an organization, the priority of the incident could be very low. But if it is the CEO of the organization who is using his personal printer and he has to take a printout to the customer, then it is a very high priority incident and you will have to close it as soon as possible. So each incident, based on its nature, based on the users impacted, based on few other factors, is defined as P1, P2, P3. Some organizations define it SEV1, SEV2, severity 1, severity. IBM has this nomenclature, severity 1. I guess HCL has P1, P2, and everyone can. You can define as the way you want. You can define high priority, low priority, medium priority. You can define whatever you want to say. आप उसको लाल मिर्ची, हरी मिर्ची और मीठी भी बोल सकते हो. You can actually say that as your organization, as people in your organization understand. But that's what is the incident management process. So now there are definitions. What you should do is you should go through those definitions also carefully. I have got a glossary here, ITIL4 ka, which I will share with you. And this is an official glossary, and it talks about each and every term which is used in the ITIL literature. So let's just move and see what is the incident's definition here. It should be an unplanned interruption to IT service, an unplanned interruption to IT service, unplanned interruption to service or reduction in quality of the service. This is what is an incident here. You see my screen?
Sir.
Is visible? Okay. So this is the incident. If you just go through this library, the glossary, and if you just remember these all definitions, there are very high likely chances that without even reading the book, you can pass the exam. Though I don't recommend, obviously, I recommend understanding things in detail. And it is also not necessary to cram each and every definition. Few definitions are important, and that we'll come to know during the session. The concept which are important, which are not. Service is important, for example. It's a means of value co-creation. In the version 2 of ITIL, when we had seen ITIL V2, the service definition, it used to say that service is a means of delivering value to customers. For example, if I just show you it somewhere on this book here, where we are just defining the service. Service must always deliver value to customers. So here is what is a service. Hmm, let me just search. Means of deliver. Yeah, here it is. This is the definition of service as per the V2 literature. Service is a means of delivering value. You are delivering value to customers by facilitating outcomes जो customer को चाहिए, which the customers want to achieve without the ownership on cost and risk. And there is a example which is given in this book, which clearly explains what is a service. Now, when you look at the ITL4 glossary, it says it's a means of enabling value co-creation. So this means it is not only the service provider who is delivering value, it is the service consumer also who is helping in the creation of the value. So both together are creating the value for each other. So that value creation, co-creation, this word has come in ITL4 literature in place of value delivering. So it's a means of delivering value co-creation by this is now same by facilitating outcomes the customers want to achieve without the customer having to manage specific cost and risk. Simple. So there are very few changes in the definitions, and few of the definitions have to be remembered because these definitions will be used in the examination. These definitions will be required in the examination. Uh, Coming back to the easy ITSM. So I1, I2, I3, I4, these are the incidents. They are reported to the service desk. They are prioritized as per the SLAs. SLAs are defined for all the processes, required processes. The SLAs are defined and then they are resolved within the SL time finish. But if the incidents are coming repeatedly, or if there is a major incident, you don't want a major incident to be repeated. You need to know, you need to understand what was the root cause. Why did this incident come in first place? So similar looking incidents, user saying I cannot access internet, user saying I cannot send an email, user says I cannot shoot a printout, the user said I cannot share files on the internet. All these are somehow linked to the network. Kuch na kuch, some issue seems to be there in the network. Could be. So then the problem management process comes in picture. The problem manager looks at the database of incidents, looks at the database of incidents, trend of the incident, what kind of incidents are coming over a period of time. And then he clubs the similar looking incidents together and creates a problem ID out of it, which is problem ID. Even problem ID is created. So it's written here, recurring and related incidents create problems with unknown causes to be managed by problem management process. Now again, the definition of a problem would be important. So let's look at the definition of a problem somewhere. Here in this book, you will see the definition of a problem. The cause or potential cause of one or more incidents. That's the definition of a problem. Now, coming back here also. So, unknown root. This cause is normally unknown when the problem ID is created. Now, the problem ID is created. So, there is a root cause analysis which happens on the problem. The root cause analysis will happen to find the root cause of the problem and thereby resulting incidents. Pata kiya, when we found it out, we realized that, oh, router pin is loose. So because the router pin is loose, there is some connection going somewhere. Somebody is not able to access internet. Somebody is not able to shoot a printout and things like that. So now the problem is no longer a problem. It becomes a known error. And the problem manager also provides a workaround, which is a jugada, because this router is faulty. So the router with this CI configuration item is a part of CMDB. The router will not be changed in a day or cannot be changed just like that. It has to go through a change management process for changing the router. So in the meantime, till the time the router is changed, we have a workaround available from problem management. And that workaround could be if the user is not able to take a printout, then just take the document from the user in a pen drive and print it out somewhere else. Or maybe provide a temporary printer to the user or something like this. Anything which can work for the user. That's a workaround. Now, coming back, router is faulty. We need to change the router. So there is an RFC which needs to go to change management as a process. So change management process के पास में request for change जाएगा. There are some organizations who call it an RFC, request for change. There are some organizations who call it a CR, change request. So what are the same thing? Change request or request for change is almost the same thing. Now I have another document to show you, and that document is something also important. Let me just service decomposition. I have to show you. Now, an RFC goes to change management, and that RFC says change the router. So the first question which comes to our mind is, do we have a spare router in the company? Who will tell this to us? Somebody who is keeping track of all the routers, all the CIs. What is a CI? CI is the components which make up the service. They are the CI, configuration items. Configuration items of a service are called CI. कैसे होता है? CIs together will make up the IT service. For example, one router है, there is a software, there is a person managing, उससे मिला के there is a service which is running called XML web services from the IT department. And this XML web service is helping a bank, because this is a bank example. This XML web services along with the FTP service and visa authentication service is helping a bank to run the ATM service on organization. So if the ATM is down, it could be down because of either FTP not working, either XML web service not working, or visa authentication not happening. If this any of these is down, then ATP will be down. But in तीनों के down होने का reason could be any of those components which are linked to these could be down. So these are the CIs. An organization has to maintain all the CIs and make sure that any change to the CI, आप जब monitoring, when you do the monitoring or when you do the event management, you actually keep track of each and every CI for anything happening with the CI. If something happens with the CI, you should be able to track it, what happened, when it happened, and because of that, there could have been some issue which came up. So the router is a CI. It cannot be changed just like that. First question: do we have a spare router in the company? Nahi hai ji, we don't have it. How many routers we have? We have 4 routers. One is in the VPN, the other one has got to the client side, the third one is being used in that department, and fourth one is faulty. Finished. So, do we have money to buy the new router? Finance will tell you whether you have the money to buy the router or not. Do you have the right kind of availability targets available? Because you have already told to the customer that you will be available 99%. So if you change the router, will your availability will be hampered? What about the capacity of the new router? What about the security features of the new router? All this has to be considered. One person called change manager obviously cannot do. So there is a CAB meeting happening, change advisory board. Change advisory board will explore all these questions for changing the router and advise the change management to take a decision. Okay, bhaiya, should we hold this change for now or should we go ahead with this change? That is a change advisory board. For normal changes, there is a CAB. For emergency changes, there is a ECAB, emergency CAB. So, okay, let's assume that the decision has been taken and now we need to change the router. So somebody will procure the router and do a thorough testing, a rigorous testing and user acceptance through service validation process. Once that is done, pilot is over, then they will implement that router in the real environment. And after that, there will be a post implementation review, PIR review, where what they will examine is there should not be any single user who is saying that my internet is not working, my printout is not happening, or I'm not able to access the emails, or I'm not able to share the files on the internet. If there are users still giving you similar incident, then your change is unsuccessful and you need to roll back to the original router. Then this particular change is unsuccessful and the problem manager did not do the right root cause analysis. His root cause analysis was wrong. Okay. But if the root cause analysis was correct and if there are no users complaining anything about this, then the incident was closed then and there itself. And then when this problem was closed when it came to a known error, then this error is closed. When the so when does an incident get closed? Within the SLA time, it has to get closed. Whichever way, jugaad karo, whatever you do, but close the incident. When do you close the problem ID? When you do the root cause analysis and when you convert that problem ID into a known error and provide a known workaround for that, and that workaround will go into a known error database. When this error ID is created, now जब उसका root cause we found out, when the error ID is created, then this error will go finally through the change management cycle and there will be a change which will actually happen in the infrastructure. And when the PIR, post implementation review, says कि, okay, this change was successful, then only you will close the error ID. So this is how your one side of the picture goes here. Right side of the picture, it talks about the incidents being reported to the service desk, how the service desk manages them, how the incident management works on those incidents, and how the incidents generate or create the problems, and when those how these problems are actually worked upon, the root cause analysis is found out, and then infrastructure में changes किए जाते हैं. So there are infrastructural changes which generally results from problem management. RFCs are given to change management, and then change management implements those changes one by one, one by one, one by one, and you aim to get a better infrastructure or a better uh, services in the organization. Any questions now? We are halfway through with this service management flowchart. कोई प्रश्न?
No, sir, it's okay. Till now, I have understood.
Good, very good. So now come back onto the three types of changes. Normal change, standard change, and emergency change. We have already talked about the normal change. The normal change is the one which goes through the whole life cycle like this, completely. And it is goes through the cab meeting, and then it will be assessed for anything, then it will be released, and for post implementation review should be successful, and then this normal change will be closed. So that is how the normal changes happen. But if there is a virus attack, and then you have to change almost many things in the organization, some configuration has to be changed or something. You don't have time for a cab meeting, so you will call emergency meeting of few cab members who are affected and who have a say in the this thing change, and then you will implement the emergency change. A normal change is documented first and then executed. But an emergency change can be made first and documented later. Emergency है ना, पहले change कर दो, करते रहना document बाद में. So that is only difference between normal and emergency change. Otherwise, there is no difference. You will have to do a complete and risk analysis, or what you call as the impact analysis of the change also while you are trying to work on the change. Now comes the third one, which is a standard change. A standard change is something which is repeated again and again and again. So look at this. It says low impact and high frequency change.
Hello, Pratul ji.
Yes, hi. Are you in the class?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Deepika, did you have any questions on this V2? अभी मैं इसको V2 समझा रहा हूँ. I'm just explaining this
नहीं
book.
नहीं, मैंने बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ा. I mean, I must say आपने बहुत अच्छे से इसको explain किया है.
चलो great. So बढ़िया.
It's
मतलब
really
you
awesome.
don't have any question, ना?
No. Yeah.
Great. And I also assume कि आपको इसमें भी कोई question नहीं है. जो diagram जो मैं अभी आपको show कर रहा हूँ. It's the same diagram जो book है. Actually, in that book, it's been explained.
Yeah. This is just the workflow and integration of all the processes.
Correct. So I have already explained to Pranju half right side of this document. जिसमें how the incidents are reported to the service desk, how the incident manager closes the incidents within the SLA time, फिर incidents से how the problem is created, because bigger incidents and major incidents they create the problems, and how the problem root cause analysis happening. Root cause analysis होने के बाद वो known error बनता है, known error cover ground देता है problem management, and for example if it needs to change a router or something, CI. So there is an RFC which goes to change management. CI वो चीज है जिससे सर्विस बनता है. So there is another diagram. मुझे नहीं पता I have shared this diagram with you or not, but this is what is called a service composition. ये एक बैंक है. बैंक की एक business process है which is called ATM. ठीक है, जो हम machine use करते हैं ATM. So now that ATM is dependent on the IT services which are being provided by the IT department of the bank. And these IT services could be HTTP services, FTP, XML web services, visa authentication वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. ठीक है, अगर इनमें से एक भी down है, if any of these is down, then the ATM will be down. Correct?
Right.
And these services are further made up of various components of the infrastructure which are called your CI.
CIs, right.
Configuration items. ठीक है, तो ये configuration items make up a service. For example, एक software, एक router and a person, they make up a service called XML web service. If the router is down, then this XML web service will be down, and in turn your ATM will also be down, and it won't be working. So looking at all the components of the infrastructure, हमारे company में जितने भी जो भी CIs हैं, having a good control of those CIs, not allowing the controlled, these are under change control. These all CIs are under change control. Change control का मतलब कोई भी जाके ऐसे ही change नहीं कर देगा. Nobody should be allowed to just go and make changes there. You don't allow people to enter into the server room also. Only an authorized person can enter the server room and make changes. ठीक है ना? So I was just explaining this easy ITSM diagram to her. This router is faulty, which is creating problem, and उसका incident निकल के आ रहा है. So router needs to be changed. So there is an RFC which goes to change management. Router is a CI. The policy says no change in the CMDB. CMDB मतलब ये आपका configuration management का database, this lowest level of CI. No change in the CMDB without formal approval from change management. So there will be a CAB meeting which will happen. There will be a decision taken on the changing the router. Release management is the process which is responsible for procuring the router. They will do a thorough testing, pilot testing, and उसके बाद they will change the router. Once the router is changed, there will be a post-implementation review. And in that post-implementation review, कोई भी user फिर रोना नहीं चाहिए कि my internet is not working, or my email is not working, or my file is not being shared, or this or that, because you have already changed the router. So the root cause was that the router is faulty. Agar still you have people complaining about this thing, then you need to roll back.
Right.
So that's how till this point we just discussed. We also discussed there are three types of changes. One is normal change, which goes through the whole life cycle like this. There is some emergency change. We don't have a cab meeting. Cab meeting is generally scheduled. 15 दिन में एक बार. People wait for it and they look at the list of all the changes. This is normally called forward schedule of changes. तो सारा changes की list को देखेंगे भाई किसने क्या क्या change मांगा है, whosoever is asked for what change and which is to be done now, which is to be done later or which is not to be done at all. This cab meeting is basically a meeting which decides कि कौन सा change करना है, कौन सा नहीं करना है और कौन सा कब करना है. That is also the decision when we do the change also. That's also a decision. But we don't have that much time for emergency changes. भैया virus attack है, life खतरे में है. So we just call up a e-cab, emergency cab, and we just close it out. Another important thing which I discussed with her and which I told her during the session was that there is a glossary here, which I will share this with you. And this glossary has a definition of all these items. So in the examination, you will find quite a few questions which are just the definition. बोलेगा problem क्या है? So it's you should remember this. It's a cause or potential cause of one or more incidents. In the other choices of the answers, there will be similarly looking sentences which will be equally confusing to you. तो आपको confuse करने के लिए different type के question के options अलग होंगे. In a common sense, in a layman's language or in a common sense way, we could understand कि नहीं यार ये भी तो problem है. But that would be a wrong answer. So इसलिए I'm gonna provide you this glossary also, which you will just go through whenever you have a time before the exam. And no need to cram each and every word. There are only few things which you need to do. For example, problem का definition हुआ या service का definition है, or maybe incidents definition, event का definition, known error definition, availability definition. When we look at the ITIL4 course, we'll do it. So the session I have divided into two parts primarily. One part I am just explaining you the easy ITSM flow chart after you have read this book called Easy ITIL Story Book. So once you have read this book, first you read this book. Second, I am going to explain this to you, the flow chart, and you will also provide you the ITIL glossary. I'm explaining you through the help of diagrams, the service composition diagram, and things like that. And this session will be over there. Second session will be actually going through the ITIL4 stuff, for which I have already given you the slides, and there are these 7 learning outcomes which we'll go through in the second session. So let's try to finish off the first session today itself, and if possible, we'll go through do the second session also. First session will take about 2-3 hours, and second session also will take about 2-3 hours. And then you can prepare, and then your exams will also take about 1 hour each. I've done okay. So that I have already scheduled the exams. आपके पास mail आ गया होगा. You have received the email?
हाँ, yeah, I have seen them. प्रथम मुझे ये पूछना था कि ये हमारा एक्सेलोस से नहीं हो रहा है क्या? मतलब certification body is different.
से होगा और कौन करा सकता? Who else can do it?
ये people
cert अरे यार, it is Excelos the university. People cert is the college.
अच्छा, okay, right, ठीक है.
Exam Excelos नहीं करा सकता. The examination body is people cert. पहले earlier there used to be XN also. Earlier TUV SOT और पता नहीं कितने सारे exams कराते थे लोग बाग. Now it is only and only people cert who can do the examination for you.
अच्छा.
And people cert gets it done through the ATOs. We are an ATO. My organization is an ATO. ATO is accredited training organization.
Okay, right.
ये वो है, ठीक है. So you will get a certificate of people cert. Don't worry.
Okay.
And
Excelos, right. और दूसरी चीज मुझे ये पूछनी है, जैसे हमारा आपने एक सेशन डिवाइड किया B2 and glossary and its diagrams.
Basics.
Basics. And then we have the advanced version which is ITIL V4.
ये जो दिख रहा है आपको
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल. इसके बीच में मतलब is this point will be covered कि अगर हमसे पूछा जाता है, I have seen this is a very repetitive question कि ITIL V2 और V4 में क्या difference है? ITIL V2 और V3 में क्या था? V3 and V4 में क्या difference है? What are the improvements?
एग्जाम में नहीं पूछा जाएगा.
नहीं, एग्जाम में नहीं, इंटरव्यूज में पूछते हैं लोग.
वैसे अगर पूछना है, हाँ वो मैं बता दूंगा आपको. अभी बता देता हूँ. I'll tell you. We will just cover it here only.
हाँ, ठीक है.
So right now what you're seeing is a V2. A V2 क्या है? V2 is this only. ये अभी I just wrote it here only. V2 is service delivery and service support.
Right.
Service delivery had 6 processes. which included finance, service level, availability, capacity, security, and IT service continuity management. Service support had one function, which is service desk function, and 5 processes. Incident management, problem, change, release, configuration. ये V2 है. When V3 came up, in V3 and even after V3, there was one 2011 update also came up.
Yeah.
So when V3 came up, V3 came up with a service life cycle approach. जहाँ पे पहले आप strategy करते हो, फिर design, फिर transition, फिर operation, and continuous service improvement. Strategy में finance management is the process being retained from V2, but you have also included demand management and service portfolio management. They are not there now in the ITIL4 में अभी नहीं है.
अच्छा. Okay.
Then you come on to the service design. अब आप क्या है, when you have decided service strategy is something कि क्या देना है, what is supposed to be given, what service you will be giving. Then service design is how it is supposed to be given. So your service delivery part जो था आपका service delivery part of V2, that has actually come here in the service design. So all these processes except for the catalog management were there a part of V2. और ये डिजाइन कोऑर्डिनेशन जो ब्लू वाला है 2011 अपडेट में जुड़ा है. तो V3 में ये दोनों जुड़ा, डिमांड एंड सर्विस पोर्टफोलियो. V3 में सर्विस कैटलॉग मैनेजमेंट जुड़ा. देन V3 अगेन मूव टू सर्विस ट्रांजिशन, which is change, release, configuration was already there. So change, release, and configuration was there. They added knowledge management and validation testing in V3 separately. लेकिन 2011 में उन्होंने change, evaluation, and transition support planning भी जोड़ा. Coming to service operation, incident and problem was already there in V2. Access, request fulfillment, and event management got added in V3. And these 3 more functions got added in V3. Service desk के अलावा technical management function. See, service desk, you know, the one which manages the users, जो उनका incidents लेता है and it records the incidents and then closes the incidents till closure. ठीक है? That is what is a service desk. It's a single point of contact, which you know very well. This is the function. But there are other people also who manage the infrastructure. वो technical management function वाले होते हैं. There are other people also who manage the applications. Company की applications होती है यार कि some organization they have got PeopleSoft. कहीं कहीं पे SAP है पूरा. Somewhere they may have the Oracle apps. Somewhere they will have some intranet. Somewhere they will have the Remedy. Somewhere they will have the Maximo. Somewhere they will have Service Desk, ServiceNow. All sorts of applications which are used by everybody in the organization. उनको भी तो कोई manage करेगा. Somebody who manages this is called the application management function. And then the IT operations guy, जो users को supports देते हैं. The people who actually travel to the desk of the user and they provide the supports, local IT support या typical support देने वाले बंदे. And also the facilities, data center वगैरह को manage करने वाले बंदे. So these are 3 more functions which got added in version 3. उसके बाद जब 2011 अपडेट आया तो ये जो ऊपर वाला है ना ब्लू वाला, ये जुड़ गया इसके अंदर. ठीक है? प्रांजो आपको समझ में आया? हेलो
हाँ जी सर, समझ गए. हाँ जी.
Let me just quickly repeat this also. See, दीपिका, ये जो आपका version 2 है, इसमें 2 books था, service delivery and service support. Service delivery had 6 processes and service support had 1 process and 1 function and 5 processes. This was typical V2. And these service delivery and service support were 2 prime books of V2. In V3, they retained all of the V2. ये सारा V2 रह गया, plus उसके ऊपर से service life cycle approach आया. So they converted all that ITIL architecture of framework into a life cycle approach, which is a cyclic thing, starting from strategy till design, transition, operation, and उसको improve करते रहो. So this is how it works, service life cycle approach. इस life cycle approach में ये जो V2 का processes था, they actually put fixed up somewhere. So strategy obviously a matter of finance. Finance is always a matter of strategy. So फाइनेंस वाला जो था ये चीज वो स्ट्रेटेजी में चली गई. There are two more added in V3 in service strategy, which was demand management and portfolio management, जो अब नहीं है in ITIL 4 में नहीं है. ठीक है, दो इट इज देयर इन एनी केस, बट एक्सप्लिसिटली जो ITIL 4 का फाउंडेशन का स्कोप देखोगे उसमें आपको ये प्रोसेसेस कहीं पढ़ने को नहीं मिलेंगी. यू विल नॉट सी them anywhere. All the other processes of service delivery were retained here in service design, and one more added called service catalog management in V3. All the three processes of the service support called change, release, and configuration, they got retained in the service transition module, but knowledge management and service validation testing two more got added in V3. And service operation में इसका incident and problem got retained here, incident and problem, but three more called access management, request fulfillment, event management got added. And in functions, the service desk function got retained from V2, and three more functions got added called technical management, application management, and IT operations management. So ये बना आपका V3 from V2. And then from V3 to ITIL 2011 update. 2011 में they added few more processes. One called business relationship management, another one called strategy. ये ऊपर वाला सारा. डिजाइन में डिजाइन कोऑर्डिनेशन को ऐड किया. चेंज मैनेजमेंट में चेंज इवैल्यूएशन और ट्रांजिशन प्लानिंग को ऐड किया सर्विस ट्रांजिशन में. ये बट नन ऑफ दीज यू विल फाइंड अगेन इन द ITIL 4 लिटरेचर. ITIL 4 को सिंप्लीफाई किया है. Why these got added? I'll just give you a quick example of something like this. Business relationship management क्यों ऐड हुआ? See, what is this process called service level management? A service level management process is the one which talks to the customer, understands the expectations of the customers in terms of the service levels required by the customer. तो भैया कस्टमर तेरे को किस तरह के SLAs चाहिए, भाई तेरे को क्या चीज चाहिए बता दे हमें, तो हम उसी तरह से पहले तैयारी करके देंगे. अगर तेरे को 24/7 चाहिए सर्विस तो हम तेरे को 24/7 देंगे. अगर तुझे 99% अवेलेबिलिटी चाहिए सो वी विल हैव अ लॉट ऑफ रिडंडेंसी मेड इन. हम इन्वर्टर भी लगाएंगे, हम जनरेटर भी लगाएंगे, हम ये भी लगाएंगे. वी विल मेक श्योर दैट इट इज 99.9% अवेलेबल. बट अगेन जिस हिसाब से द काइंड ऑफ सर्विस लेवल्स, व्हाट द लेवल्स यू वांट ऑफ द सर्विस, उसी हिसाब से पैसा. So you will have to pay the money for the similarly just whatever quality or whatever comfort you or whatever quality of service you have, what are the levels of service you buy it from us, आपको उसी हिसाब से आपका पैसा लगेगा. So you will be charged accordingly. This was the service level management, and service level management used to understand the expectations of the customer. वापस डिजाइन में आके IT टीम से, डिजाइन वालों से accordingly design karata hai. They get designed accordingly so that the service is able to meet the SLAs. Pura throughout the cycle of service, they will track the SLAs and then go back to the customer saying कि सर जी देखो, we told you that we will provide you 99% availability और last month में हमारा 99.5% availability था. Now give us the money. पैसा दो जी. That's how they go back to the customer. Will give the money if they are satisfied, but they will ask for more. But yeah, now I am on 99.9% availability, because there are some user who still complain कि भैया अभी भी नहीं available है, हमें और चाहिए. So this service level has to keep on upgrading हमेशा. So in one cycle you will provide this. उसके बाद जब दोबारा आप दूसरी cycle पे जाओगे, so you need to provide better levels of service. ये job है आपका service level management का. लेकिन होता क्या था? Once you have made up a relationship with the service level with the client, एक cycle service दे दिया, 2 cycles, 3 cycles of service have opened. You have made up a friendship with the client. So you want to share the SLAs with the SLA reports with the customer, who is now your friend. So your friend says कि यार शाम को beer bar में we'll meet there and we'll just have the discussion of the service levels. So when you are meeting in the beer bar with your customer, the focus from the service goes away. The focus shifts automatically. It's a psychological also. When you have made up friends, then you become casual. Making up relationship is important, जरूरी है, with the customer, because the customer can give you future businesses also. The customer's business is also growing, and you both will grow with each other. Making relationship is very important, but not at the cost of service. So दारू पिलाना is important, बियर पिलाना कस्टमर को इंपॉर्टेंट है, जरूरी है, वो रिलेशनशिप बनाना इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट नॉट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ सर्विस। ये नहीं है कि सर्विस को तुमने साइड में डाल दिया, बोला जी चलो जी दारू पियो जी, हाँ खुश खुश। देयर आर क्वाइट ए फ्यू क्वाइट ए फ्यू quality people in the industry which I personally know. Quality कुछ करते नहीं है, they don't work on quality things, but they maintain very good relationship with the customers, and all the time they receive the feedback from the customer is the customer delight, 5 out of 5, good quality, this and that. And if that is the case, if you are really doing a customer delight and it is really good quality, then your business should go but double यार, आपका revenue बढ़ने चाहिए, your profit should increase. It cannot happen ना कि एक तरफ तो आपका कस्टमर बड़ा खुश है, is very happy, customer is very happy and your business is going down. Are you giving it for free? क्या मतलब बिजनेस कर रहे हो या चैरिटी कर रहे हो? Only in case of charity business it will happen that the people are happy and the money is not being made. Okay, so that is what was the lacking in service relationship level management. तो एक बंदा स्ट्रेटेजी लेवल पे करो जी, पुट ऑन, जिसका काम सिर्फ दारू पिलाना होगा, ये बंदा जाएगा बियर पिलाने कस्टमर, and this guy is called a business relationship manager. Simple sales वाला बंदा है. He has to make up the relationships, understand from the customer what are the new things customer is doing and what are the new things our organization is doing, और कहाँ पे मैच करता है, और जहाँ पे मैच करता है भैया यार let's get together with this also. So that's how this new process got added. Pranju, you understood?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, there are stories about other of these also. What was the basic reason? For example, change management already है, तो change evaluation घुसाने की क्या जरूरत थी भाई? And what is this transition planning and support? So I just quickly tell this to you also, because it's not important from the examination point of view, but learning point of view से थोड़ा सा आपको फायदा कर सकता है. Especially when you are talking to your seniors, or especially when you are talking to somebody who is an ITIL guy, भैया चेंज मैनेजमेंट ऑलरेडी है, तो वाई चेंज इवेल्युएशन? क्या डिफरेंस है दोनों में? यू नो चेंज मैनेजमेंट क्या था? चेंज मैनेजमेंट वो था कि जब राउटर वाज सपोज्ड टू बी चेंज्ड, एंड सिंस राउटर इज अ CI and the router cannot be changed just like that, so you had to go through a change management process where there is an RFC going to change management, and change management doing is a CAB meeting. After the CAB meeting, they are deciding whether the router has to be changed or not changed, और चेंज होना है तो कब होना है, कैसे होना है, व्हाट आर द ऑफिस टाइमिंग या ऑफ ऑफिस आवर्स में, व्हाटएवर आर द रिलीज पॉलिसीज डिपेंडिंग ऑन वो चेंज कैसे होना है. दिस वाज ऑलरेडी देयर चेंज मैनेजमेंट. व्हाट दे हैव एडेड इज समथिंग व्हिच इज कॉल्ड चेंज इवैल्यूएशन. अभी चेंज इवैल्यूएशन ऐड करने की क्या जरूरत थी? नाउ सी, इंडस्ट्री में दो तरह का काम होता है. एक होता है आपका प्रोजेक्ट्स और दूसरा होता है आपका ऑपरेशंस टिपिकली. So an industry has two kinds of things. One is called projects and another one is called operations. Delhi Metro बन रही है, it's a project. Delhi Metro चलाना will be an operation. एक हॉस्पिटल का बिल्डिंग बनाना, making a hospital building is a project. Running a hospital is operation. Similarly, setting up service desk in an organization is project, but running the service desk is operation. So you are now let's say working in your organization, and आपके ऑफिस, आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का एक ऑफिस है जो नोएडा में है, ठीक है. And Noida is now becoming very very crowded and lot of cost is also increasing, and Noida is actually जंगल सा होता जा रहा है, प्लेस काम नहीं करने का मन नहीं करता है. So the organization thinks let's now move to Greater Noida or maybe to somewhere else, कहीं दूर चलते हैं, because now everything is there is no connectivity issue. Earlier तो there were connectivity issues with the villages ना, आज तो you can even go to the villages and set up your office. Internet has become so powerful there that bandwidths are so high there, even in your villages they are getting 10 Mbps, 20 Mbps, 100 Mbps तक है, जियो फाइबर गांव-गांव में घुस गया है. So why not let's move to Greater Noida. तो आप क्या करोगे? ऐसे उठा के हाथ एक दिन उठे और सारा सामान लेके ग्रेटर नोएडा पहुंच जाओगे? नो, इट हैज टू बी अ चेंज व्हिच विल बी डिफाइंड एज ए प्रोजेक्ट, और आपको वो ट्रांजिशन की प्लानिंग करनी पड़ेगी कि पहले इस टीम को लेके जाएंगे स्लोली एंड स्लोली. देयर विल बी अ ट्रांजिशन व्हिच विल हैपन, एंड ट्रांजिशन टेक्स टाइम. यू हैव टू क्रिएट ए प्रोजेक्ट फॉर my organization shifting from Noida to Greater Noida. उसका बजट डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा जी, कितने पैसे लगेंगे. You will have to define the cost of that. You will have to define the timeline. Within this time, within 1 month, we will start today, and within 1 month, we will be fully shifted to Greater Noida. And you will also define the scope. क्या क्या ले जाएंगे? What all we will shift? That's a project. That's not an operation. So this transition planning and support is actually a Prince 2 within ITIL. Prince 2 is project management. So जो project management घुसाया है इनने, वो यहाँ घुसाया. Transition planning and support. Because not every change is like a change which can go to the CAB meeting and which can be approved like this. ये जो change है, shifting from Noida to Greater Noida, will not go to the CAB meeting. Rather, what will happen is, what you will do is, you will do a change evaluation for that change. There will be some industry experts sitting up, or you will be talking to some outsider or companies. आप कुछ market research करोगे, कुछ भैया वहाँ shift करने पे क्या क्या दिक्कतें आएंगी. Somebody has to think through properly and then decide कि देखो जी अंकल जी, these are the benefits if you shift to Greater Noida, but these are the losses if you have. बोलो जी आधे लोग तो आपकी कंपनी छोड़ देंगे. Some people will leave the organization because it will be very difficult for them to travel from Rohini to Greater Noida. Sir ji, it will be 2.5 hours. How will the people shift? Unless you have a backup plan for that. So there will be some pluses. You will be saving on some of the things. You will be saving some of the cost, but you may actually be ending. हो सकता है कि इतने सारे लोग छोड़ दें कि आपका rehiring cost goes very high. Then maybe it's not a good solution. It's not a good choice to shift to Greater Noida. So this change evaluation process helps you decide, take a decision on a large change which will be executed as a project. While the change management is a process which helps you take the decisions on the changes to the service and the integrated CIs which are making of the service. ये आपका difference आया इसमें 2011 में. I believe this completes our discussion on this V2 versus V3 versus 2011. अब वो जो ITIL4 आया है, that is very different. ITIL4 में the examination pattern is the same as the previous one, but you have got 7 learning outcomes. एक तो key concepts है. These key concepts are service क्या है, what is service, what is problem, what is incident, what is this, what is that, all very simple things which we are getting covered in our storybook, which we are also covering in the easy ITSM here, and which you will also go through the terminologies in the glossary sometime and then do it. So that is one. Then yeah, there are 7 new guiding principles which are added. This all will be done in session 2. Not in the today's session, or maybe not in this particular session. Whether we do this session 2 today or tomorrow, that's a different question. But session 2 will cover only and only ITIL4. Then there were 4 P's of ITIL version 2, people, process, product, partners. So they have been extended to 4 dimensions. They are dimensions. This is the third learning outcome of ITIL4. Then there is a service value system, which is a little theoretical, but yes, it's a new addition to ITIL4. How the value is created to the customer. Then there are value chain activities within the service value system. So that we will be working out, we will be understanding. And if you look at the 6th learning outcome, it says 18 ITIL practices, and what they have done is they have retained many of those ITIL practices. 18 ITIL practices उसमें retain किया है आपका पुराना वाला, and these are your 18 ITIL practices. And the question is, recall the purpose or key terms of 18 ITIL practices or definitions of all these. ये glossary में ये सारे definitions आपको अच्छे से समझ में होंगे because इनके questions आते हैं. I will also tell you कि किस learning outcome से किस. So now what you see is there are processes or there are practices which are there which are coming from the V2 only. वहाँ से retained है. There is nothing new as such. IT asset management was originally there. It has been now separately added as a different function, different process altogether. इवेंट मैनेजमेंट को मॉनिटरिंग और इवेंट मैनेजमेंट बोल दिया है. Continual improvement is made up a focused process separately. So you already have it. Relationship management is your business relationship management. जो दारू पिला रहा है वो बंदा. So these are your 18 practices and the definitions. Now I want to show you something. So if you look at the learning outcomes, ये 18 आपको, you have to understand those 18 processes in the purpose and the key terms of those processes. And then 7 practices out of that have to be understood in detail. That's it. This is what is ITIL4. Very simple. So half of the ITIL4 or maybe 75% of the ITIL4 will be done once we go through the storybook, once we understand this easy ITSM, and once we have the glossary terms with us. और हमको ये दो diagram और पता है तो it will be done. When you look at the ITIL4, I have already shared these slides with you. And now I will also share with you, there are some few other things for ITIL4. अगर आप इसका examination pattern देखते हो ITIL4 का, and you have got this syllabus. So look at this. 2 questions from the definitions of these. 2 question पक्के कर लो, 2 marks. कुछ नहीं है. Very simple. Just look at the definition, understand it, and then finish. Again, key concept. What is cost, what is value, what is meaning of value, organization किसे कहते हैं, output क्या है, outcome क्या है, risk क्या है, utility. Again 2 more, 2 और निकल आए. Then 1 slide जिससे 1 और mark निकल आता है इधर. So 5 marks you get it. After that, guiding principles का एक question आता है. बड़ा simple 7 guiding principles है. We will go through that tomorrow. After that, 5 guiding principles में detail. 1 तो ये आता है कि guiding principles है क्या. So that is what is 1 mark. But in 7 में से 5 guiding principles के questions भी आते हैं कि ये, for example, when you say start from where you are, organization में people have a tendency of losing out or throwing away the existing thing and सब कुछ नया खरीद लो जी. अरे भैया जो है उसको तो अच्छे से यूज करो. If you have already spent effort on something and now if you can leverage that, why not to do that? Reinventing a wheel again and again does not make any sense. So that is the principle called start where you are. और कोई भी काम आप करते हो उसको एक बार करो, उससे सीखो, फीडबैक लो, फिर उसे दोबारा करो. वो एक तरीका होता है जिसको अपन ओरिजिनल जो लिटरेचर था उसमें इसको PDCA बोलते थे, डेमिंग साइकिल. प्लान डू चेक एक्ट, प्लान डू चेक एक्ट. उसको उन लोगों ने नया, they have made up a new principle out of that which says progress iteratively and with feedback. Collaborate and promote visibility. कस्टमर को सब कुछ बता के रखो. कुछ भी छुपाओगे बेटा तो बाद में पंगा हो जाएगा. All these are very simple guiding principles. 5 more marks. Simple. 4 P's, 2 more marks. Service value system, 1 more mark. Then you have got service value chain activities, 1 more mark, 1 more mark. ये जो आपका just knowing the purpose of these processes जो हम अभी कर रहे हैं in our V2 revision gives you the 5 marks. They'll just ask you what is the purpose of incident management. Restoring the service as soon as possible. As simple as that. What is the purpose of problem management? Identifying the problems, their known root causes, and preventing the incidents which may result from those problems. Problem management. Service desk क्या करेगा जी? Single point of contact है. So all these purposes will give you 5 marks. Then comes up the definitions of these words. Again 2 number इधर से आ गए. Simple सी definitions है. इनको search करना होगा आपको glossary में जाके और definition निकालना होगा. Then the last one is these 7 processes जिसमें change management का नाम change control हो गया है. Incident management remains as it is. Problem management remains as it is. Service request fulfillment remains as it is. Service desk remains as it is. Service level management remains as it is. ये 5 और एक नया continual improvement जो V3 में एक CSI मॉडल निकाला था इन्हें, continuous service improvement मॉडल, उसका 17 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन होता है. 17 क्वेश्चन, 17 क्वेश्चन. This makes up your 40 questions. Very simple. This we will do tomorrow, but let's finish the easy ITSM thing today. Acha, do you have any questions, Deepika or Pranju, till now on this CCITSM or anywhere? Do you want to ask me any question?
नो प्रतुल, इट इज प्रीटी क्लियर. जो आपने एक डायग्राम दिखाया था जहाँ पे V3 का लाइफ साइकिल अप्रोच था,
I'll send it to you. ये वाला?
या यहाँ पे आप अगर सर्विस ऑपरेशन में देखेंगे
हम्म,
तो इसमें ये ऊपर में फंक्शन जो है IT ऑपरेशन मैनेजमेंट,
इसमें दो पार्ट
तो
हैं.
हाँ, तो इसका बेसिकली क्या रोल होता है?
एक तो होता है यूजर सपोर्ट, सर्विस, यूजर को सपोर्ट देना. जो आपका लोकल आईटी गाई होता है ना, मान लो आपका माउस चलना बंद हो गया, या मान लो कोई ड्राइवर फाइल अनइंस्टॉल हो गई, तो प्रोवाइडिंग द यूजर सपोर्ट either locally or through remote PC or whatever, extending user support is called one function. इसका एक काम है. And the other function, other काम is managing the data centers, facilities management करना, training rooms को manage करना.
Okay.
These are the two works which this IT operations can. IT OMF is two jobs. One is the user support, IT operation support, and the other one is the facilities management.
ओके, फाइन,
ठीक है.
ठीक.
अच्छा प्रांजू, आप बताओ कुछ क्वेश्चन.
नहीं सर.
समझ में आ रहा है सब कुछ?
जी हाँ.
Okay, so coming back here, two changes we already discussed: normal or emergency. A normal change is the one which will go through the whole life cycle like this. An emergency change is the one which will also go through the whole life cycle is this, but it will be expedited. Jaldi करेंगे उसको. In a normal change, you document first and then make up the changes. In an emergency change, पहले change मार दो, बाद में document करते रहना. You can do it documentation later. So that's what is the normal change versus emergency change. Now comes up the standard change. Every time a new user comes to an organization, he has to given a PC, machine देना है उसको. Now this PC is a CI. वो एक CI होता है PC, जो कि machine that goes into the CMDB. वो आपके CMDB में जाएगा. The policy says that no change in this CMDB without a formal approval from change management. तो यह चेंज मैनेजमेंट में आप एक RFC डालोगे जी कि भैया बंदे को पीसी देना है. चेंज मैनेजमेंट देखेगा, अच्छा बंदे को पीसी देना है, क्या क्या करना चाहिए. तो उस बंदे को पीसी देने से पहले उसमें ABCDE ये सॉफ्टवेयर प्री इंस्टॉल्ड होने चाहिए. ठीक है. एंड देन you have to have the antivirus, then you have to have this, that, all that has to be done, and then it is approved to you, give it to it. आपने चेंज का अप्रूव कराया, पीसी दे दिया बंदे को, ठीक है, रिक्वेस्ट क्लोज, वो हो गया, उसका चेंज क्लोज हो गया. नेक्स्ट मंथ अगेन देयर आर 10 मोर पीपल ज्वाइनिंग. यू गो अगेन टू दी चेंज मैनेजमेंट. अगेन उनका सारा इम्पैक्ट एनालिसिस हो रहा है जी, पीसी देने में क्या क्या करना होता है. थर्ड मंथ अगेन देयर आर 2 मोर पीपल. अगेन आप कैब के सामने हाथ जोड़ के खड़े हो गए जी, पीसी देना है. पर पागल हो गया, मुझे कैब मीटिंग में क्या है, पीसी अप्रूव करने के लिए बैठा रखा है. समझा तो दिया तुमको एक बार. We have already explained that a PC should be given with this is software pre-installed, this user ID created, HRMS ID created, email ID created for the user, things like that. और साथ में उसको एक FAQ type से देना है. This is a standard operating procedure. Define it as a SOP. And it is now pre-approved from change management. अब इसके बाद आप मत जाना मेरे से PC मांगना दोबारा. It is already pre-approved. Go ahead, make it a standard operating procedure. Follow the procedure and give the PC to user. This is what is something which is called a request fulfillment process for low impact and high frequency changes. ऐसे changes जिनका impact is low, but they are coming again and again and again. So again and again, you will not go to change management and be a part of the CAB meeting and request them to approve your change. Change management has already done the complete impact analysis of this change. This change is now a standard change. And there is an existing standard operating procedure, SOP existing, which is also approved by the change management. You just need to follow that standard operating procedure and provide the PC to the user and close it. Finish. Change आएगा कैसे? User बैठ के सर्विस डेस्क को तो कॉल करेगा. It may first be recorded as an incident. And when it is an incident, obviously it will move like this. इस change में जाके वो change management पर जाएगी जो PC देना है. So the moment you have the request fulfillment process matured, वो आपकी incidents they will actually start moving from here direct to the request fulfillment process. And request fulfillment process is normally automated in any organization. जहाँ पर process mature हो जाती है, वहाँ पे एक पोर्टल बना दिया जाता है कि माउस चाहिए, सिलेक्ट करो हार्डवेयर कैटेगरी, सेलेक्ट करो ये फलाना ढिमकाना एंड अप्लाई फॉर द माउस. वो सीधी आपकी रिक्वेस्ट सबमिट हो जाएगी. So it's more like a workflow which is automated. Again, giving a mouse is a change, and mouse is not something which can be given to everybody like this also. Why not? Because it's also a CI. Which सर्वर का माउस जो है अगर काम ही नहीं करेगा तो सर्वर मैनेज कैसे होगा? So mouse is something. Mouse is again to be given. There is another thing also. भाई बच्चे हैं, माउस ले जाके बेच देंगे बाजार में. कोई ऐसी चीज थोड़ी है जो फ्री में दे दोगे, सबको देते चले जाओगे. So let's create an SOP for giving the mouse. User is asking for a mouse. So the standard operating procedure will say something like, if the user is below level 2, उसको एक फॉर्म पकड़ाओ, बोलो go and take the sign from your manager. Manager is responsible. Manager will sign it. He comes back with the application approved by the manager. उसको PC दो, एंट्री मारो, सॉरी उसको माउस दो, एंट्री मारो, खत्म करो, जाओ जी, टाटा बाय बाय. It's done. But if the user is senior, will you ask the user to go back to his boss and say कि भैया चाहिए मुझे? No, no. They will not. You will not do like that. So if the user is senior, ठीक है, it is already approved. Give the mouse to the user, make an entry and खत्म. Entry करना इसलिए जरूरी है so that you can later track it on in 1 month who has taken how many mouses. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं किसी बंदे ने अपने घर में ही दुकान खोल रखी है, यहाँ से ऑफिस से माउस ले जाता है and he sells out there in the home. That has to be avoided. Those all have to be avoided. So we have made up a standard operating procedure for that. So all those low impact high frequency changes, they make up the SRs. They are the standard changes. उनके लिए आपको RFC change management में भेजने की जरूरत नहीं है. You just need to raise an SR, service request, and those service requests will be taken care by the request fulfillment process. If a organization is mature, वहाँ पे वो service desk के अलग ही हो जाता है पूरा SR का department, service वाला department. In Convergys, they have called something which is called CSR, centralized service request. And so it depends how mature the organization is. Now, so this is another process which got added in version 3 as request fulfillment in service operation thing. ये version 2 में नहीं था. Coming back, access management, giving the rights to the people, basically AD implementation, Active Directory implementation. किसको क्या rights मिलना चाहिए? Execution of the access rights as they are defined in your information security. Because information security management has already made up an ISP policy उसने बनाया है. Following that policy and giving the rights to people as per the policy is the job of access management, which is again another process here added in V3. And the last one here is event management. By default, incident management is a reactive process. जब आग लग जाती है तब आप आग बुझाने जाते हो. जब यूजर रोता हुआ चिल्लाता हुआ आता है सर्विस डेस्क पे, then only you start working on the incident from the user. So by nature, incident management is reactive. One of the major challenges for an incident manager is to detect the incidents before they do a damage to the system. जब फूट जाता है, आग लग जाती है, फट जाता है, तब समझ में आता है जी फट गया ये तो टायर फट गया जी. That's पहले ही अगर पता होता टायर फटने से पहले ही अगर रोक लिया होता, कोई सेंसर लगा दो यार जो बता दे टायर फटने वाला है, तो कितना अच्छा होगा ना. टायर फटने से पहले ही उसको चेक कर लोगे, जैसे आजकल गाड़ियों में सेंसर आने लगे हैं. If the tire pressure is low, it will start beeping to you. Boss, your tire pressure is low, now you get it filled it up, otherwise it फट जाएगा. So that kind of thing is provided by event management. Event management क्या करता है? Event management जितने भी CIs हैं organization के अंदर, so event management will actually monitor. So event management will monitor all the CIs in the organization and look for changes in them and classify those changes as events. वो events बनाएगा आपको. अच्छा, इवेंट की डेफिनेशन आती है एग्जाम में। तो इवेंट क्या होता है? इवेंट वो चीज होती है जो कोई भी ऐसा चीज जिसका सिग्निफिकेंस है। तो कीवर्ड फॉर इवेंट इज सिग्निफिकेंस। कहीं पर भी एग्जाम दिखे में क्वेश्चन दिखेगा जहां पर इवेंट क्वेश्चन में है, वहां पर आंसर में सिग्निफिकेंस होना जरूरी है। इसी तरह से कहीं पर भी एग्जाम में आपको वारंटी वर्ड दिखेगा, तो वारंटी वारंटी वहां पे आंसर में आपको एश्योरेंस वर्ड होना जरूरी है, इसकी डेफिनेशन में आता है। कहीं पे भी आपको इंसिडेंट दिखता है तो इंसिडेंट में अनप्लैंड इंटरप्शन होना जरूरी है। दीज आर द कीवर्ड्स टू द डेफिनेशन। प्रॉब्लम दिखता है तो उसमें अननोन कॉज होना जरूरी है। So these are the small things which you can remember while remembering the definitions. Coming back, event management will monitor all the CIs in the organization and look for changes in the CIs and classify those changes as events. अब classify उसने events किया है, तो events होती हैं तीन तरह की। events के तीन तरह के, 3 types। एक तो event है which is called information। information मतलब यूजर ने लॉगिन किया, यूजर लॉग आउट किया, ठीक है। कोई इंसिडेंट थोड़ी है, कौन सी बड़ी बात है, यूजर ने लॉगिन किया है, लॉग आउट किया है, इवेंट है। इवेंट है बट लॉग तो बनेगा ताकि बाद में चेक कर सकें किसने कब यूज किया, कुछ लफड़ा हुआ तो पता तो चल रहा है कौन था या क्या था, किस रीजन से हुआ। तो दैट्स अ टिपिकल इवेंट। प्रिंटर पे प्रिंट आउट निकल आया है, इवेंट है जी। इट्स जस्ट अ नोटिफिकेशन व्हिच इज जनरेटेड। वायरस अपडेट हो गया है जी, इवेंट है जी। ये वाला एप्लीकेशन अपडेट हो गया है जी, इवेंट है। इन्फॉर्मेशन इवेंट, वी जस्ट कीप ऑन इट रिकॉर्डेड। देन कम्स अप द सेकंड काइंड ऑफ इवेंट व्हिच इज कॉल्ड वार्निंग। यूजर ने 50 बार लॉग इन किया, 50 बार लॉग आउट किया, चक्कर क्या है जी? भाई साहब तुम 50 बार इधर से अंदर बाहर क्यों हो रहे थे, क्या रीजन है? सो इन केस ऑफ ए वार्निंग जनरली एन अलर्ट इज जनरेटेड एंड a human intervention is required. That's called a warning. And third one is called an exception. User logs in and logs out 1000 times एक ही दिन में। ये क्या चक्कर है? Something is wrong with the software or something is wrong. Maybe some sort of SQL injection has happened जो यूजर को अंदर बाहर फेंक रहा है, बाहर कर रहा है। And there you need to raise an incident and do the further investigation on that. So before the incident could be reported, आपने उसको दो जगह पकड़ा इवेंट को। एक तो जब वो इंफॉर्मेशन थी, दूसरी जब वो वार्निंग बनी। वहां नहीं पकड़ पाए तो आपका एक्सेप्शन बन जाएगा। सो एक KPI, यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स? जब हम प्रोसेस को देखते हैं, समझते हैं, वी आल्सो वर्क ऑन द की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स। पता कैसे चलेगा जी इंसिडेंट मैनेजमेंट अच्छा काम कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा है? So what we will do is we will look at the percentage of incidents which are resolved within SLA time. So we will keep that KPI. हम उस KPI को measure करेंगे and we will come to know that incident management is working better. और पहले से अच्छा कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा है? पहले जी we last month में we had around 70% of incidents which got resolved within SLA time, and now we have got 80% incidents which got resolved within SLA time. 10% better हो गया जी, ठीक है। This is how you measure your KPIs. But there are some KPIs which are measured in other process. For example, इसको ध्यान से सुनना। If I tell you, can you tell me the percentage of incidents for which there is no corresponding event? आपके पास कितनी ऐसी इंसिडेंट्स आई हैं जिसका कोई इवेंट ही नहीं जनरेट हुआ है? अबे तो पागल हो गया, इवेंट मैनेजमेंट क्या बैठ के अंडे दे रहा है वहां पे? उसको समझ में नहीं आ रहा हो क्या रहा है। जब आग लग गई है तब जाके तुम्हें समझ में आई है आग लग गई है, उसके पहले जब वो चिंगारी थी तब क्यों नहीं पकड़ ली तुमने? You guys are following me? समझ में आ रहा है?
Right. So basically, with that number of incidents, we are trying to capture the KPI of event management.
Correct, correct.
Right.
Incident ये just एक example है। ये एक example है where I am telling you that हर एक प्रोसेस के KPIs उसी प्रोसेस में मेजर नहीं होते हैं। किसी प्रोसेस के मेजर होते हैं दूसरी प्रोसेस में जाके। नंबर ऑफ फेल्ड चेंजेस ये किसका केपीआई है?
केपीआई तो चेंज मैनेजमेंट का है, बट इट रिजल्ट्स इन इंसिडेंट्स।
नहीं, ये चेंज मैनेजमेंट के अलावा प्रॉब्लम मैनेजमेंट का भी केपीआई है। तुमने साला ढंग से रूट कॉज एनालिसिस नहीं किया। तुम बोल रहे थे राउटर खराब है, यहाँ तो साला कुछ और खराब निकला।
राइट।
समझे? सो दिस इज हाउ यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड विजुअलाइज इन योर माइंड कि कौन सी प्रोसेस है और कहाँ जाके वो हिट होती है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से। सारा कुछ मिला जुला है। All the processes are linked to each other. The very fact, the very reason I created this particular flowchart was this only, कि कौन सी चीज कहाँ पे जाके किधर मर रही है. If you understand that, then your knowledge of ITIL will be an expert, बहुत बढ़िया. Then you can actually go and start auditing your organization and start helping your organization adopt ITIL practice. ठीक है? Now ask me questions. I am done with my session 1. प्रांजू, आपका कोई प्रश्न है आप पूछिए। हमारा सेशन 1 कंप्लीट हो गया है।
Sir, what is the full form of KPI?
की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर। इसको थोड़ा हेल्प कर देना दीपिका। छोटी छोटी ऐसी चीज है ना जो, बिकॉज सी आई मे बी एज्यूम दैट शी नोज इट, बट इट्स गुड प्रांजू, इट्स गुड दैट यू आर आस्किंग। आप पूछ लो, कोई भी चीज हो आप बिल्कुल पूछ लो। एसएलए नहीं पता वो भी पूछो, सर्विस लेवल एग्रीमेंट, उसको एक्सप्लेन भी कर देंगे। की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर जो होता है, जैसे आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो बंदे होते हैं ना, उनके KRAs होते हैं, की रिजल्ट एरियाज, जिसके बेस पर उनका अप्रेजल होता है। जिनकी तनख्वाह बढ़ती है ना लोगों की, तुम्हारे KRAs मीट नहीं किए तुमने तो तुम्हारी तनख्वाह कैसे बढ़े, HR वाला उसे डांटता रहता है। इसी तरह प्रोसेसेस के भी तो की परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स होते हैं कि प्रोसेस अच्छा काम कर रही है या नहीं कर रही है। सर्विस लेवल मैनेजमेंट प्रोसेस का काम क्या है? कस्टमर से SLAs लेना, SLAs मीट करवाना और SLA लेवल मीट करना, वो SLM का काम है। अब वो कर रही है नहीं कर रही है काम, कैसे मेजर होगा? ऐसे ही तो मेजर होगा, देखोगे भैया कितना परसेंटेज SLAs मीट हुए हैं, कितना परसेंटेज SLAs मीट नहीं हुए, एंड विच विल इन टर्न फाइनली विल ऑल्सो बी जनरेटिंग टू कस्टमर सेटिस्फेक्शन। तो सर्विस लेवल मैनेजमेंट का एक KPI तो हो गया नंबर ऑफ SLAs, और rather percentage of SLAs being met within SLA time। दूसरा KPI कस्टमर सेटिस्फेक्शन स्कोर भी हो गया। कस्टमर अगर खुश नहीं है तो भी तो तुम साले, तुम्हारी वजह से खुश नहीं है, तुम क्या कर रहे हो? तुम्हें रखा ही इसलिए गया है कि तुम्हें इंश्योर करना है कि उसके SLAs मीट हो और वो खुश रहे। ठीक है?
Yes, right.
यस प्रांजू, समथिंग एल्स और कुछ? अच्छा, अब एक काम करते हैं, वी हैव डन विद द फर्स्ट सेशन, हमारा एक सेशन हो गया है। आपको आज ही दूसरा सेशन करना हो तो मैं आपको आज ही ये जो की बुक है विच इज कॉल्ड ITIL4 का स्लाइड्स, ये हमको इस बुक में लगेगा अगेन अराउंड 1 to 2 आवर्स, 2 घंटे के आसपास। जैसे अभी इसमें 2 घंटे के आसपास लगा है, वैसे ही उसमें भी 2 घंटे के आसपास लगेगा। हम आज भी कर सकते हैं और हम कल भी कर सकते हैं, ठीक है? लेकिन बिफोर वी डू दिस सेकंड सेशन, one, you must have gone through this storybook completely. Two, you must have gone through this easy ITIM and understood it thoroughly. Three, you must have gone through this glossary and specifically जो हमारे relevant terms हैं, खासकर जो कि आपके इसमें कहीं पे लिखा हुआ है एक जगह, जो सिलेबस के अंदर यहाँ लिखा हुआ है that you should know the definitions of, let me just tell you कहाँ कहाँ पर है। When you look at the syllabus, these slides are with you. So ये सारी definitions आपको याद होनी चाहिए from the glossary। इसके अलावा और भी जगह आपको कहीं definitions दिखेगा, किसकी क्या definition होती है, वो ये है, recall the definitions of these। तो एक तो इन सब की definition मैं लिख देता हूँ उसको, ठीक है? और एक और ऊपर जो आया था उसकी डेफिनेशंस आपको याद हो। हाँ, ये बिकॉज द डेफिनेशंस ऑफ दीज, ये आपको ग्लॉसरी में से याद होनी चाहिए। यू मस्ट रिमेंबर दीज डेफिनेशंस फ्रॉम द ग्लॉसरी इसके। एंड यू शुड हैव गॉन थ्रू दिस अपडेट। इसमें अगर कोई क्वेश्चन हो पूछ सकते हो, लेकिन इसका एग्जाम से ज़्यादा वो लिंक नहीं है। दिस इज ओनली फॉर द अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि V2 में क्या था, V3 में क्या हुआ, एंड व्हाट हैपेंड इन दी ITIL 2011 version, and this diagram also. Before we move on to the ITIL 4 formal training and going through the slides of ITIL 4, आपको ये सारा clear होना चाहिए. If it is clear,